Rocky the African grey parrot's urgent cries of "Help! Baby!" pierced the air, drawing immediate attention to a car in the sweltering parking lot. Inside, a baby lay trapped, prompting a swift rescue that left onlookers in shock as the car's window shattered, revealing the gravity of the situation. Perched outside Pete's Pets, Rocky had shifted from his usual playful demeanour to one of intense agitation. His sharp eyes, adept at noticing the smallest details, had fixated on the blue sedan parked across the lot. For 20 minutes, his gaze hadn't wavered, his tense body and ruffled feathers signalling that something was terribly wrong. Inside the store, Sarah Chen, a veteran employee known for her calm and attentive care of the animals, immediately sensed that something was off. Rocky was not one to cause a fuss without reason, and today his usual whistles and chirps had morphed into shrill, distressed calls. "Hey, what's wrong, buddy?" Sarah approached Rocky's cage, her voice laced with concern. Rocky's response was out of the ordinary. He was fixated on something outside, his head bobbing anxiously towards the sedan as he let out a series of urgent squawks. Then, with startling clarity, he voiced his distress in a way that sent chills through Sarah. "Help! Baby! Help! Baby!" he cried repeatedly, his voice piercing through the ambient noise of the shopping centre. Sarah's heart raced as she processed Rocky's words. She knew his vocabulary was extensive, but these were not phrases he used lightly. Following his insistent gaze, she peered through the store's front window at the blue sedan. At first glance, it seemed unremarkable, just another vehicle under the scorching sun. But as she watched more closely, a sense of urgency gripped her. Compelled by Rocky's cries, she stepped outside, the heat of the midday sun enveloping her as she crossed the lot towards the sedan. The car's windows were tightly shut, and as she drew nearer, a faint whimpering sound reached her ears. Approaching the car's side, Sarah's worst fears began to materialize. Through the tinted glass, she glimpsed the unmistakable outline of a car seat in the back. Leaning closer, her eyes widened in horror at the sight of a tiny hand pressing weakly against the window. The baby's movements were sluggish, its cries barely audible through the sealed car. With no time to lose, Sarah pulled out her phone with trembling hands, dialed 911, and reported the situation, her voice steady despite the panic swirling within her. As she awaited the arrival of emergency services, Rocky continued his desperate mantra from across the lot, "Help! Baby! Help! Baby!" Each call reinforced the critical nature of the moment, urging Sarah to act swiftly to save a life only he had noticed was at risk. As the dispatcher responded on the other end of the line, Sarah described the situation with urgency, her gaze fixed on the small, faintly stirring form in the back seat of the sedan. "There's a baby in a car here at Golden Springs Shopping Centre, and it looks like it's in trouble. The car is locked, and it's extremely hot out here." She relayed the car's location, urging the dispatcher to send help quickly. While on the phone, Sarah circled the vehicle, peering through each window to assess the baby's condition. The infant, pale and visibly weak, lay strapped in a car seat, dressed only in a light onesie. Each breath seemed an effort, and the baby's eyelids fluttered weakly. The realization of the severity of the situation settled in Sarah's stomach like a stone. This was a life-or-death moment. Her mind raced as she recounted the first time she had heard Rocky's distress call. The parrot had a history of being incredibly perceptive, often reacting to visitors' emotions and the environment, but never before had he shown such a heightened level of alertness. His acute awareness had turned into their only warning signal. As Sarah continued her frantic survey of the car, she noticed a sticker on the back window. A faded cartoon character, partially peeled, seemed to mock the gravity of the situation. It was a stark reminder that this vehicle was used by a family, a normal setting turned perilous by negligence or an unforeseen circumstance. With emergency services on the way, Sarah considered her next steps. She remembered the emergency hammer back inside the store, a tool they kept in case of fire or other emergencies requiring a quick escape. She rushed back, grabbing the hammer and returning to the car just as the sound of sirens began to fill the air. A police cruiser turned into the parking lot, lights flashing vigorously, followed shortly by an ambulance. The officers, upon assessing the scene, signaled Sarah to step back. "We've got it from here!" one of them shouted over the wail of the siren, his tone firm yet reassuring. Sarah complied, stepping away as the officer approached the car with a device designed to safely break the window without harming the interior occupants. The window shattered with a sharp, echoing crack, and a rush of hot air burst from the opening. The officer reached inside to unlock the door while his partner prepared to administer first aid. As they opened the door, the full impact of the overheated interior hit them like a wave, the stifling air heavy with the scent of plastic and fabric baked under the sun. The baby, now more clearly visible, was drenched in sweat, her breaths shallow and laboured. The officers carefully extracted her from the car seat, wrapping her in a cool, damp blanket provided by the paramedics who had swiftly moved in to take over. As Sarah watched the paramedics work, her relief at the baby being rescued was overshadowed by a growing concern. How had this happened? Who was responsible for leaving such a young child unattended in a locked car? These questions churned in her mind as she noticed something else in the vehicle, something that added a layer of mystery and urgency to the situation. A small, crumpled note tucked beneath a baby blanket on the front passenger seat. As she pointed it out to the officers, the gravity of the discovery seemed to register on everyone's faces, hinting at a situation far more complex than a simple case of forgetfulness. As the paramedics took over, their efficiency was a testament to their training and the urgency of the situation. They immediately began to assess the baby's condition, hooking her up to a portable monitor to check her vital signs while administering oxygen. The lead paramedic, a woman with a calm yet assertive demeanour, directed her team with precision. "We need to cool her down gradually," she instructed as they soaked small towels in cool water, gently placing them on the baby's forehead and limbs. The officers, meanwhile, secured the area, cordoning off the section of the parking lot where the sedan was parked. Crowds had begun to gather, drawn by the commotion and the arrival of emergency vehicles. One of the officers addressed the onlookers, asking for any information they might have about the vehicle or its occupants. All the while, his partner began the standard procedure of running the car's license plate and checking for reports of missing children that could be linked to this incident. Inside the ambulance, the baby's condition was stabilizing, but she was not out of danger yet. Her breathing remained laboured and her skin was still far too warm, signs of the severe heat exposure she had suffered. The paramedics continued their work with grim determination, knowing that the next few hours would be critical to her recovery. Sarah, still shaken, watched from a distance, her mind replaying Rocky's distressed calls. The Parrot had been the unsung hero, the only witness to the unfolding tragedy until he'd alerted her. She felt a profound sense of gratitude mixed with sorrow, thinking about the vulnerability of the child and the circumstances that had led to this critical moment. As the rescue operation continued, the officer who had checked the vehicle's registration approached Sarah. "The car was reported stolen 2 days ago," he revealed, his expression sombre. This new information added another layer of complexity to the case, suggesting that this was not a simple case of parental negligence. The note that Sarah had pointed out earlier was now in the hands of Detective Lisa Martinez, who had just arrived on the scene. She read it carefully, her brow furrowing as she absorbed the message scrawled in a hurried hand. "I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. Please find someone who can love her properly. Don't look for me." The words were chilling, hinting at despair and a desperate decision that had left an innocent life in peril. This mysterious note, tucked beside the rescued baby, hinted at a narrative far darker and more desperate than anyone had initially imagined. The unfolding investigation would need to unravel not just who had left the child, but why, setting the stage for deeper inquiries into the circumstances surrounding this dramatic rescue. Detective Martinez held the note delicately between her fingers, pondering its implications as she stood beside the now open car door. The message was a poignant reminder of the human despair that sometimes hid behind seemingly mundane events. She tasked an officer to canvass the area for security cameras that might have captured the car's arrival and anything else unusual in the preceding days. While the detective worked the scene, the officers expanded their investigation. The car's interior was a trove of contradictions. A child's brightly coloured toys scattered on the floor, a diaper bag that was nearly empty save for a single clean diaper and a half-empty bottle, and a well-worn teddy bear named Emma. Each item seemed to tell a part of a story that they were only beginning to understand. Martinez's next step was to interview Sarah, who had been first alerted by Rocky. As Sarah recounted the events, highlighting the parrot's distress and her subsequent actions, Martinez took meticulous notes. The detective's questions were pointed, seeking to uncover every detail of Sarah's interaction with the scene and her observations. "Did you notice anyone around the car when you arrived today or in the days leading up to this event?" Martinez inquired, looking for any witness who might have seen who left the baby. Sarah shook her head, her thoughts clear despite the whirlwind of activity. "No, but it's not uncommon for cars to be left for a bit. I never saw anyone in distress or acting suspiciously around that car, though." Her statement added to the puzzle, indicating that whoever had left the baby had done so discreetly, avoiding detection. Meanwhile, the results of the vehicle registration check came back, revealing that the car was registered to a Catherine Wells, who had reported it stolen 2 days ago from a neighbouring city. This new piece of information was crucial. It suggested that the person who left the baby might not be the owner, complicating the narrative of a simple abandonment. Detective Martinez dispatched a unit to Catherine Wells's last known address, hoping to find some connection or clue that might explain her involvement, if any, in this incident. The urgency was palpable, as every moment could lead to a new revelation or a dead end. As the day turned to evening, the hospital reported that the baby was stable, but would remain under close observation. The medical team was doing all they could to reverse the effects of dehydration and heat exposure, while also running tests to ensure there were no other underlying conditions or injuries. Back at the parking lot, the investigative team had managed to secure footage from a nearby security camera that showed the car being driven into the lot early in the morning, just as the first light crept over the horizon. The driver was obscured by the glare of the sunrise, making identification difficult. The deepening mystery of the baby's abandonment, coupled with the revelation that the car had been stolen, pointed to a more complex scenario than anyone had first imagined. As Detective Martinez reviewed the security footage, she noted something peculiar: a figure moving away from the car shortly after it was parked. This sighting promised a new lead in what was becoming an increasingly intricate case, hinting at connections and motives yet to be uncovered and a deeper story waiting to be unravelled. The footage that caught a figure moving away from the parked car added a new urgency to Detective Martinez's investigation. If this person was involved, finding them could be key to unravelling the entire case. She ordered an enhancement of the video, hoping to glean more details about the figure's identity or direction of travel. As Martinez coordinated with her team, updates came in from the officers sent to Catherine Wells's last known address. The house was found empty, with signs of a hasty departure, meals half prepared, a baby's room hastily vacated, and family photos where Catherine appeared happy and untroubled, a stark contrast to the desperation implied by the note left in the car. Martinez reached out to Catherine's neighbours, who reported seeing her just days before, appearing distressed but evasive about her troubles. "She seemed worried, always looking over her shoulder," one neighbour described, suggesting a fear of being followed or watched. This information led Martinez to consider the possibility of coercion or threat involved in Catherine's disappearance and the abandonment of her baby. Meanwhile, at Pete's Pets, Sarah and Rocky had returned to a semblance of normalcy. However, Rocky's behaviour took another turn late in the afternoon. The parrot, who had quieted down after the initial rescue, suddenly began squawking again, more agitated than before. His new cry, Mama crying, was chilling and drew Sarah's immediate attention. Rocky's distress seemed to indicate an intuitive connection to the baby's mother, or perhaps an awareness of her peril. Sarah immediately called Detective Martinez, reporting Rocky's new behaviour. Recognizing the potential insight the parrot might be offering, Martinez decided to revisit the pet store. She arrived to find Rocky pacing restlessly in his cage, repeating the phrase. This new clue was perplexing but potentially pivotal. Was Rocky mimicking something he had heard, or was he sensing something beyond human perception? Back at the investigation hub, Martinez pieced together a timeline from the enhanced footage and neighbour interviews. It seemed increasingly likely that Catherine had been coerced into abandoning her car and possibly her baby. The detective hypothesized that the figure in the footage could be connected to Catherine's feared pursuer, leading to a widened search that included checking local surveillance for any sign of the two together or tracing the route the figure might have taken after leaving the parking lot. Martinez's team expanded the search area, focusing on public transport hubs, shelters, and any known hideouts for fugitives or victims of coercion. Each officer knew the stakes were high. If Catherine was in danger, finding her swiftly was imperative. As the day turned into night, the team worked tirelessly, following up on every lead. Rocky's cries of "Mama crying" echoed in Martinez's mind, a haunting reminder of the emotional and possibly physical peril Catherine Wells might currently be facing. This distress call from an unlikely witness was now driving the investigation, as the search for Catherine turned into a race against time, hinting that the situation was far more dire than a simple case of abandonment. The search intensified as Detective Martinez and her team traced the possible routes the mysterious figure might have taken from the parking lot. Their efforts led them to explore the surrounding areas of the shopping centre, particularly focusing on less frequented locations that could serve as potential hiding spots or meeting places. Late into the night, one of the teams reported a suspicious discovery near a rarely used service entrance at the back of the shopping centre. The door, typically locked and alarmed, showed signs of recent tampering, scratches around the lock and subtle marks on the dust-covered floor that suggested frequent use. Intrigued by the possibility of a hidden aspect to the case, Martinez ordered a thorough search of the area. With the maintenance team's help, the police accessed the service door, revealing a dimly lit stairwell that descended into the bowels of the shopping centre. The air was cooler underground, carrying the musty, stagnant scent of disuse, interspersed with a faint, almost imperceptible chemical odour that raised Martinez's suspicions further. The team moved cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, illuminating long-abandoned maintenance corridors and storage areas. In one of these rooms, hidden behind a falsely labelled utility panel, they discovered an unexpected setup. A small, makeshift laboratory filled with medical equipment, vials of unknown substances, and notes scattered across a makeshift desk. The notes were chaotic, filled with medical jargon and references to behavioural studies and conditioning experiments. Some of the papers mentioned a project code-named Nurture, which seemed to focus on emotional bonding and response triggers. This discovery was alarming. It suggested a scientific endeavour that was not only unauthorised but potentially unethical and illegal. Among the clutter, Martinez found a recent photograph that showed a woman resembling Catherine, looking weary and distressed, holding a baby in a clinical setting that matched the room they were standing in. This chilling evidence hinted at Catherine and her baby being subjects of whatever research was conducted here. As they documented the scene, one of the officers uncovered a hidden compartment beneath the floor tiles. Inside, there were audio recordings and videotapes labelled with dates and times. The recordings were chilling. They contained hours of surveillance footage of different subjects, including what appeared to be sessions where subjects were exposed to extreme stresses while their physiological responses were monitored. The implications of these findings were profound. They suggested that the figure captured on the parking lot's security footage could be part of a larger group involved in these unauthorized experiments. The project seemed to have multiple subjects, indicating a conspiracy much larger than a simple case of child abandonment. With these unsettling discoveries, the investigation took on a new direction. The presence of a sophisticated operation involving psychological and possibly pharmacological experiments meant that Martinez was now dealing with something far beyond a typical criminal case. The clues hinted at a network that could be experimenting on humans, pushing the boundaries of ethics and legality. This realization set the stage for a broader inquiry, aiming to uncover the full extent of the conspiracy and those behind it, ensuring the protection of any other potential victims ensnared in this sinister project. As dawn broke, Detective Martinez and her team, fueled by the disturbing discoveries from the underground lab, intensified their efforts to identify and locate the culprits behind the sinister Nurture project. The audio and video recordings they had found provided a crucial breakthrough. Enhancements of the footage identified a recurring figure, a man with a distinct, albeit commonly nondescript appearance, who appeared to be leading some of the sessions recorded in the hidden lab. With this lead, Martinez directed her team to cross-reference the man's image with national criminal databases and research staff records from nearby medical and research facilities. The painstaking work paid off when an ID came back matching one Dr. Marcus Eldridge, a psychologist whose credentials were recently suspended due to ethical violations involving unauthorized experiments on emotional manipulation. Further investigation into Dr. Eldridge's background revealed that he had been advocating for extreme methods to enhance human emotional bonds through induced stress and chemical intervention. His published papers, filled with controversial theories, had been dismissed by the academic community, but it appeared he had decided to prove his hypotheses with or without oversight. This information shed new light on the motivations behind the abductions and experiments. It wasn't just about observing natural responses, but about forcibly creating bonds and then studying the manipulated emotional resilience of subjects under controlled conditions. The team also uncovered financial records showing that Dr. Eldridge had been receiving funding from a shadowy group of private investors interested in developing techniques for what they termed enhanced interrogation resilience, a euphemism that did little to hide the dark nature of their intentions. Amidst these revelations, Martinez received a call from Sarah at Pete's Pets. Rocky had begun speaking in a different manner, repeating phrases like dark experiment and too much, too much. Sarah was convinced that Rocky was mimicking phrases he had heard from Dr. Eldridge, possibly when the doctor visited the pet store, a fact previously unnoticed. This new development suggested that Rocky might have directly witnessed some part of the planning or execution of the experiments, a possibility that opened up an unexpected avenue of investigation. Realizing the potential of Rocky's mimicked phrases to provide further insights or even evidence, Martinez decided to bring a behavioral specialist to interact with Rocky, hoping to decode more hidden messages that could lead them directly to Dr. Eldridge or his associates. As the specialist began working with Rocky, everyone held their breath, understanding that the parrot's unique ability to mimic human speech might just be the key to unraveling the entire plot and bringing those responsible to justice. The investigation was reaching a critical point, hinging on the unexpected contributions of a seemingly ordinary parrot, whose next revelations could change the course of the case. The behavioral specialist's interaction with Rocky provided unexpected yet pivotal insights into the Nurture project. Through careful observation and interpretation of Rocky's phrases, the specialist was able to confirm that the parrot had indeed overheard crucial details about the experiments. Rocky's repeated phrases like dark experiment and too much, when combined with the evidence gathered from the lab, painted a clear picture of the disturbing activities that Dr. Eldridge had been conducting. Armed with this new information, Detective Martinez launched a coordinated raid on a secluded property listed under Dr. Eldridge's name, where they suspected the core activities of the Nurture project were taking place. The raid was successful. Dr. Eldridge and several of his associates were arrested, and more incriminating evidence was uncovered, including detailed logs of their experiments and plans to expand their operations internationally. The trial that followed was highly publicized, drawing attention to the ethical boundaries of psychological and medical research. Dr. Eldridge and his team were convicted on multiple counts, including kidnapping, illegal experimentation, and endangering the welfare of minors. The exposure of their activities led to a nationwide review of research practices and stricter regulations to prevent similar abuses. For Sarah and Rocky, life slowly returned to normal, but the events left a lasting impact. Sarah became an advocate for animal rights and the recognition of animals' roles in human welfare, often speaking at conferences and seminars about Rocky's crucial part in unraveling the case. Rocky himself became something of a celebrity, featured in news stories and documentaries about the case. His uncanny ability to mimic and remember had not only saved a life, but had also played a key role in exposing a major criminal operation. Catherine Wells, after being found in a safe house where she had been taken by a whistleblower from within Dr. Eldridge's team, was reunited with her baby. The trauma of the experience strengthened her resolve to protect her daughter and herself from further harm. She moved to a new city, started a new job, and gradually rebuilt her life, her story inspiring a foundation dedicated to helping victims of coercion and abduction. Detective Martinez reflected on the case, acknowledging how it had changed her approach to police work. She became a leading figure in advocating for the use of interdisciplinary teams in police investigations, especially in cases involving complex psychological elements. Her experiences with Rocky and the Nurture Project also influenced police training programs, incorporating lessons on the potential contributions of non-human witnesses. As for the community around Pete's pets, Rocky's role in the case brought them closer together, fostering a deep appreciation for the animals among them. Rocky continued to live a peaceful life at the store, now a local hero, watched over by Sarah, who often told customers, "This bird knows more about justice than many of us ever will." In the quiet moments after the store closed, Sarah would often sit near Rocky's cage, reflecting on the unexpected journey they had taken together. Rocky would perch quietly, occasionally repeating, "Love real, a phrase he had picked up during the investigation that had become a comforting reminder of the enduring bond between them. Their story was a testament to the profound and often surprising connections that can exist between humans and animals, a reminder of the depth of empathy and understanding across species. As we close this remarkable tale of courage, intrigue, and the unexpected heroism of a parrot named Rocky, it's a reminder of the profound connections that can form under the most unlikely circumstances. This story not only uncovers the darker aspects of human endeavours, but also celebrates the empathy and bravery that can emerge in response. Rocky's role in this saga shows us that sometimes heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they have feathers. If Rocky's story has moved you, touched your heart, or simply amazed you with the depth of what our animal friends are capable of, please like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about the unexpected twists and the role Rocky played? Could there be more heroes like him out there? Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. Your engagement helps us bring more of these touching narratives to light.